Have you ever noticed that temptation doesn't strike when you're at your weakest spot? When you're finally getting stronger, it doesn't come in chaos, but right after clarity. The moment your spirit begins to align, when your heart finds stillness, and your prayers start to feel real, that's when the whispers begin. They arrive like a storm, disguised as a breeze. Not loud, not violent, subtle, familiar, almost comforting. But make no mistake, it's not peace breaking through. It's interference. This is spiritual warfare, not in the physical sense, but at the level of vibration. And the greatest trick it plays, making you believe that your desires are the enemy. That lust is proof of your failure. But what if that desire was never meant to be fought? What if it was meant to be understood, directed, refined? You've been told lust is sinful, that your urges are your downfall. But listen closely, lust itself is not evil. It is sacred energy, a raw spiritual current wired into your being by design. Desire isn't the fall. Disconnection is. When sacred energy is severed from sacred purpose, it mutates. It becomes shallow, empty, confusing. You don't need to suppress desire. You need to remember its source. And when you finally begin to rise in frequency through prayer, through fasting, through spiritual discipline, it notices. Your light disturbs the shadows. Your clarity shakes the confusion. And so it fights back. Not with chaos, with comfort, memories, fantasies, dopamine-fueled illusions. It sends temptation not to destroy you, but to delay it, to keep you orbiting in the almost healed, almost whole, almost aligned. But you were not created for almost. You were created to be whole. You see, your soul doesn't crave indulgency. Every sexual impulse, every craving, every desire is a coded signal pointing you back to the divine. But we were never taught to decode it. We were taught to shame it, to bury it. And in doing so, we became disconnected from our own sacred fire. You were not built to leak energy into dead things, into empty pleasure and false connection. You were designed to radiate, to hold fire without being consumed by it, to direct your desire into creation, purpose, healing, presence. Fasting is not just about food, it's about silence. It's about removing the noise that keeps you from your truest self. It's about reattuning to your original frequency, the one that existed before interference. When you stop feeding yourself with what numbs you, you finally begin to remember what actually nourishes you. You're not addicted or sensitive. Your sensitivity is your power. But if unprotected, it becomes pain. That's why every spiritual tradition speaks of discipline not as punishment, but as protection of power. Your lust is a flame, but left untended, it burns. When honored, it becomes light. The system doesn't fear your sin, it fears your sovereignty. It doesn't panic when you fall, it panics when you rise. When you begin to choose purpose over pleasure, when you start to transmute urges into intention, when you stop chasing shadows and start shining. You were not made to resist forever, you were made to remember who you are. You are a temper, a frequency, a spiritual transmitter. Your body is not the battlefield, energy is. So speak it, declare it, not for show, but to shift reality. I transmute desire into light. I choose alignment over addiction. I vibrate at the frequency of purpose. These aren't affirmations. These are spiritual technologies. When spoken from truth, they realign timelines. They crack the atmosphere. They break old cycles. Because the enemy isn't lust. The enemy is forgetting who you are in the presence of it. The enemy is thinking you're unworthy because you feel desire. The enemy is disconnection, but you're reconnecting. You're remembering. You're not falling, you're returning. And that's what darkness fears most. So light the flame again. Let it burn not in shame, but in glory. Let it rise through your spine and into your voice. Let your sacred fire become the very thing that sets others free. This isn't about perfection, it's about present. And presence true, holy, embodied presence is the greatest threat to every system built on spiritual amnesia. So come back, return, rise, and declare, I am not ashamed of my fire. I am the keeper of it. And this time, I'm not leaking, I'm leading.